Well, happy Sunday, everyone. I'm glad that you could join me today. We are going to do something fun today. We are making a savory custard. Usually, if you think about custards, you think about creme brulee or other sweet custards that you would use. This one is savory, and this is a beautiful addition to a salad, or you can eat it on its own. And the best part is you can make it ahead, and you can have it sitting in your fridge waiting to go with you to work. If you want to take a salad to work, you can do whatever you like with it, and it can be reheated. So just to get something else ready that I forgot, because I always forget these things, I'm just going to set this aside. Okay, let's get started. Now this takes a little bit of prep work. So if you're trying to figure out what to make for game day, because I know this is Super Bowl Sunday and you're tired of tacos or whatever, or wings, or you want something a little bit different to go with, something a little more keto maybe, this is an awesome option. And I'm looking at the clock. You have time to make it. So let's get busy. Now there is lots to look at here. And so the very first thing that we're going to do, thankfully, I have a production crew here today. Now, this is raw garlic. And the raw garlic, let me just adjust this so that you can see this. The raw garlic is going to go in the oven at 375, and just let me get this. There we go. Now we can hang out together. Okay, this is going to go in the oven at 375, but it's not going in alone. I have some rosemary that needs to be used up, and I have garlic that needs to be used up. So we are adding the little rosemary sprigs. I'm going to save the individual needles to use later. But we're going to add a few sprigs of rosemary in here. And now you can do this if you have a garlic roaster. I do not, but you can do it however you want. I'm adding avocado oil, and we're going to throw this, and that's all there is to it. No salt, no pepper, no spices, just rosemary and garlic. And I could definitely fill this up if I wanted to, but this is all I need for right now. So this is going to go in the oven at about 375, or at 375 for half an hour-ish. So we're just going to pop that in there. Okay, now we need to get a bunch of stuff going here. So there's a few parts to this custard. Now the part that's going to take the longest is the cream sauce. Now this, I have enough moving parts here that I have them sectioned off so that I don't forget anything. When you are making this, you need about 45 grams of cream per custard. So this is 280 grams of cream. Now this is going to make 6 little custards, and that way we have some for game day. And if you want it ready before Valentine's Day, you can do that too, and it would be all ready if you want to make a beautiful salad, and we'll talk about how you can dress that up. Now this is 112 grams of triple cheddar cheese. Now I bought shredded cheese, but that is okay this time. And we're going to add the cheese in here. Now you want this on about 2 or 3, really low. If you scorch this, it's done. It's not going to be any good for anything. Now this is 112 grams of cream cheese. I'm just going to cut this up a little bit, just so that it isn't such a big clump. And then we're just going to add this to the pot. And of course, I forgot to do that. Okay, there. Now we are all alone. Well, just you and me and my production crew that I am very grateful for today. Okay, now we'll get this 112 grams of cream cheese in here. Now, if you don't want to use cream cheese, you can use goat cheese, or you could use boursin, or you could use any type of cheese that is kind of creamy and soft. Or if you wanted to take a little more time to melt it, you could also use Parmesan cheese, or Asiago would be wonderful. If you didn't want to use the cheddar cheese, you can use Asiago pepper jack. You can use whatever kind of cheese you want. The big thing to remember with this recipe is you want 224 grams of cheese total. Half of that should be a shredded cheese, and the other half can be a soft cheese or a hard cheese, whichever. But this is going to melt. Now to this, I am going to add a little bit of salt. Make sure that you are seasoning things properly. There's nothing worse than biting into something that looks absolutely amazing and you bite into it and it's bland. There we go. Just a bit of salt. Now you can do this to taste. There's nothing in here that you need to worry about being raw, or so just a little bit of salt to taste. And then also to that, we are going to add a bit of hot sauce. Now again, you can do as much or as little as you want. Now this is Frank's hot sauce. And if you want to put in a teaspoon, that's fine. If you want to put in more than a teaspoon, that is absolutely fine too. Now that is all we're going to put in this pot, and I am going to send this away to be on the stove. Look at this. With these magnetic induction burners, fingers right on there, and if the pot isn't touching it, then it is not hot. So we're going to just give this a stir. Now this, let me bring this over here where you can see it. This is just going to continue to melt, so we're going to get rid of all of these. Whoops, and I missed a spot of cream cheese. And I'm slopping on the burner too. Okay, now this is something that you have to pay attention to. Now we'll turn that burner off, and I'm going to send this away to the stove where it is going to continue to be cooked, because I have my wonderful husband here, and we are going to hopefully watch the football game this afternoon. So coffee this morning with sugar-free Da Vinci banana syrup in it. Okay, so that's part one. Part two, frying pan. Now you can see I have a little bit of spinach in there already. Now we want this on 4, and we want to put a bit of butter in here. So a tablespoon, 15 grams of butter. Now I still have some of the compound butter that we used before, and I think we need a little more butter in there. There we go. A little more butter. That should do it. And I am dropping stuff all over the place this morning. I am butterfingers. Okay, so we're going to let this butter melt, and I'll turn this up just a wee bit. Now this is going to be the veggie portion of our garlic custard. Now I'm doing garlic. You don't like garlic, you can do whatever veggies you want. You want to put broccoli in, put broccoli in. You want to put cauliflower, put cauliflower. Peppers, you can put peppers in. Make sure whatever it is that you're adding, you're keeping track of the carbs that are going to be per person. Now, once we get this butter all bubbly, once we get the butter all bubbly, we are going to take about a tablespoon. Now, I did some roasted garlic before. I think I showed you guys this. And the oil in here is beautiful roasted garlic flavor, and it is amazing to use. So, now I don't want the rosemary needles in there. Okay, so just about a tablespoon of the oil, and we're going to wait for this butter to get nice and bubbly. And it's getting there, and when it does, we're going to add 45 grams of onion. Now remember, this is going to make 6 portions, so you're not going to be eating 45 grams of onions. And there's a little bit of butter left in this bowl. We do not want to waste butter, not ever. Okay, now we're going to let that saute for a little while, and while we do that, get this handle out of the way. While we do that, we are going to chop up 45 grams-ish, if I can get the lid off here, of sun-dried tomatoes. Whoops! Now these sun-dried tomatoes, I think I just splashed a drop of oil in my coffee. I guess I'll find out when I take a sip. These sun-dried tomatoes are packed in oil. You can get them different ways. Make sure that whatever you are buying, that you're reading the ingredients. Just because it says sun-dried tomatoes packed in oil does not mean that they have no sugar in them. It depends on what the recipe is. These are seasoned, but they're seasoned with a little bit of salt and no sugar. So this is awesome. And there's going to be a little bit of extra oil in here, but that's not a big deal. Now, one thing that I have never done, that is going to be the end of that jar of sun-dried tomatoes. One thing I've never done is sun-dry the tomatoes myself. Okay, look at these. They are just beautiful, and they are sizzling away. Now, we want to cut up our sun-dried tomatoes. These need to be cut up pretty fine, and I am absolutely going to slop my coffee if I don't move it. So we're just going to put it over here where hopefully it'll be a little safer. These want to be cut up pretty fine. Make sure your knives are sharp. This is a job that is so much easier with a sharp knife. It doesn't take any time just to touch them up if you have a sharpening stone or even a knife sharpening machine. I know they're not the best answer for a good knife, or if you have a knife sharpening person in your neighborhood. I know in Red Deer there's somebody that is a traveling knife sharpening guy, but I have a couple different ways to sharpen my knives. So one of these days, my brother has about the best knife sharpening system that I've seen, and one of these days I am going to get him to make me one, or I'm going to make me one, or get my husband to make me one. I'm going to have to find a YouTube video. I was very hesitant when I first heard about it, but I've seen how it works, so we'll have to see. You need a I don't know, you need a grinder. Now these are starting to get nice and brown, and I've got these tomatoes chopped up. Okay, so let's add these tomatoes in here. Okay, and we're going to need this again, so we're just going to get this all cleaned off rather than sending it to the dish sink. Oh, goodness me, making a mess this morning. So, are you watching the game today, or are you... Good morning, Mom. And Dell is here too. If you're watching the Super Bowl this afternoon, I hope you have something yummy in mind. If you don't, this is definitely something yummy that you can have in mind. Okay, so we have the onions and the sun-dried tomatoes. Now this is a tablespoon of fresh thyme. You want to make sure that it is chopped fine. And now we're going to add 112 grams of chopped spinach. So this is fresh spinach and just a rough chop. It doesn't need to be finely chopped. The fresh thyme does. You want to make sure that that's chopped up really nice. And we are just going to add this in here, and again, just a pinch of salt. Make sure everything is seasoned. And we want this just enough to wilt the spinach. It does not need to be cooked to death. And that is a mistake that so many people make with vegetables. They throw them in a pot full of water and they throw them on the stove and boil the bedevil out of them. And yeah, you don't need to do that with vegetables. You want to keep as much of the nutrition in them as you can. Now these are definitely going to finish cooking in our custard when it's done, but you can see that that's already, it only takes a couple of minutes. Okay, now we're going to turn that off because we've got some carryover heat there anyway. Now, next thing on our list of things to do, 6 eggs. 6 servings, 6 eggs. So we need a little bowl to crack those in. Makes it so much easier to get the eggshells out, and I definitely have been known to drop an eggshell or two in. Okay. And do you have an immersion blender, a stick blender? If you don't, honestly, I think I use that blender in my kitchen more than I use anything else, because it is so handy, it's so versatile, and it's so easy to use. So we've got 3 eggs in there. Now the cheese and cream that we were working on earlier, oh, and there you go. See, this is why I do it in a bowl. Make sure my egg is good, and make sure that I don't have to fish a great big piece of shell out of a whole bowl full of eggs. Okay, and that is 4 and 2 more, and we have another spinach leaf that we'll throw in there. Now the eggs as well need to be seasoned, so when you think about 6 eggs in here, if you were cooking 6 eggs in a pan, how would you cook 6 eggs in a pan? Would you sprinkle salt and pepper on them? I hope so. You know, the salt really is important if you're using good salt, and I know I say this to you guys all the time, but it really is important. Okay, there are our 6 eggs. Having good salt is so important. Don't just go and buy crappy table salt, which, by the way, has been known to have sugar in it. If you are in the grocery store, take a look at the... Okay, there we go. There's a little bit of salt on there. Now, a little bit of pepper as well, which I also don't have over here, but I will have in a second. Now, this pepper can I have reused for years, and it has TSL Organics pepper in it, even though it isn't a TSL can. But reusing the spice jars or spice cans that you have, beautiful way to help save the environment. Okay, now we're going to get these all mixed up. Actually, you know what? Let's do our cheese sauce first. It should be all melted and ready to be all blended up. So we'll just move this out of the way. And before we get to the cheese part of this, we're just going to add a few more dashes of hot sauce right into our eggs. There we go. Pardon me. Okay. Pot of cheese sauce on its way. Okay, now to the pot of cheese sauce, before we get to the blending part of it, we're going to add 6 or 8 cloves of roasted garlic. Now you can add raw garlic to this if you want more garlicky flavor. In our house, garlicky flavor is very popular with me. It is not so popular with Del. And since these are for Del as well, I thought maybe I would be nice and just do the roasted garlic. Now the stuff that we put in the oven is definitely not ready yet. Okay, let's set this aside while we get our roasted garlic out. And the nice thing, now you don't want the rosemary sprigs that are in there. Look at how soft this is. It just mushes. So that's 2. And I got a little rosemary sprig in there, so we'll take that out. 3, 4, 5, 6. Feel like I'm on Sesame Street. Should I be going 7? Oh, I would have made a terrible count. Okay, there is 8. Now that looks like a lot of garlic to be adding to anything, but when you roast it, you get rid of that pungent garlic flavor that you either love or you hate. There does not seem to be a middle ground there. So, because you're getting rid of that, you can add a lot more. These are just the handiest little tweezer tongy things. Okay, now these are going to go right into the eggs with the little bit of flavored oil that was in it. And then we are going to make sure that everything is all blended up. Now these eggs, if we just dump the cream, and again I'm dropping stuff. This has kind of been a day today. I just keep dropping everything. All right. Now, if we were to just drop the cream sauce in here, we would end up with scrambled eggs. Not what we want. So, what we're going to do is we're going to... I know, noisy. We're just going to add a bit at a time. Now this tempers our eggs so that they don't cook. Just warms them up a wee bit, and having your eggs at room temperature will be really helpful as well. And you can see there are still a few lumps of cheese in there. That's not going to matter either. Okay, now can you hold that for me, please? Oh, we've got a mystery hand coming in here. Oh, you can't even see it. Oh, well. Okay, now, you do not want to waste any of this. This is so yummy. So you want to make sure that you scrape your pot out well. Okay. Now we're going to finish mixing this. And you want to make sure that this is blended very, very smooth. You don't want to end up with a lump of garlic or a lump of of cream cheese or okay. Now that should be good, but let's just give it a stir and make sure. Oh, that looks beautiful. Okay, now, just in case we need it again, we'll set that there. And as usual, I have made a mess. Now you need 6 ramekins. Now you can use a custard ramekin or you can use a creme brulee ramekin, and you want them in a dish that's big enough to hold them all. Because when you're doing a custard, you want it done in a water bath. It stops it from browning around the edges and on the bottom. We want it browned on top, but you don't want it browning on the bottom. So this water bath helps that. And I'm going to get all of this stuff in here, and then we will get our water bath ready. Now this is going to go in the oven at 375 for about 40 minutes. You don't want to do it too little, so you want to make sure that you're checking it.
Spray.
Oh, and I almost did it again. You want to make sure that you spray these before you put anything in them. It's not going to stop it from sticking completely. Now this is an avocado oil spray that I get at Costco. And it doesn't really spray very well, but we know it's avocado oil, so it's a good thing. Lid back on that. And then just brush it. You want the bottom done and come up the sides. Okay, and this is easy peasy. And this will make it a little easier for you to be able to release this when it comes out of the oven. Now, if you take it out of the oven, now this is the voice of experience talking. If you take it out of the oven and you're positive that it's done, and you go to plate it, and you find out that you still have some runniness happening in there, leave it in the dish, pop it back in the oven. But 40 minutes you should be good. 35, 40 minutes. It definitely will not be ready before that. Okay, there we go. We've got all the sides done.
Did you do your vinegar?
And now we are just going to split this into 6 parts. And once we get these in the oven, there is a beautiful sauce that we're going to make for these. And you just want to kind of do it sort of even. There we go. This isn't too hot anymore, so we can just put a little bit in each bowl, and if one is kind of shy, we'll top it up. Now, if you make a whole bunch of this, and a little bit more in there, a little bit more in there, definitely don't want to waste this. You could use this in an omelet, you could use it in scrambled eggs, you could use it just as a topping on meat, or you can use it however you like, but you definitely don't want to waste it with all of this beautiful spinach. And because this spinach is, well, it's going to be cooked, but just as it is, because it's wilted, it's gotten rid of the oxalates in it. So the little bit of spinach, not that I eat a lot of spinach, partly for that reason. I have had kidney stones twice in my life, and trust me when I tell you, I am not interested in doing it again. So we've split this up into 6 bowls, and we're going to send this away. Okay, now, look at this. Oh, those are beautiful. Now we're just going to tap it down a little bit on the bottom so that it's a little bit flatter, and this is going to kind of bubble up into your custard. So okay, now this looks like a lot of egg, I know this, but It truly is not. Oh, now, before we do this, we're going to remove one of these because the last thing you want is water in your custard. Now this is about halfway up the bowl. The water is about halfway up the custard container. Now that we've got that in there, probably should have poured the water in once it was in the oven, but I have somebody here that's a lot steadier than I am, so I'm going to use my production assistant to put this in the oven for me. And these, whoops, I just poured a little bit in the water. There you go. That is not going to be a big deal. Now see, that looked like an awful lot of egg mixture, but it really is not. And this is not going to bubble up so much that it's going to make a mess in any of the, well, it will go into the water anyway, but it doesn't overflow like a cake pan would if it was too full. Okay, and there is that. Now, off we go into the oven. Just let me get the oven door open. Oh, and I can smell that garlic roasting. Okay. Pardon me. Now, Alexa, set a 35-minute custard timer.
Custard timer, 35 minutes, starting now.
There we go. Okay, next thing we need is another frying pan. And we're just going to need a little one this time because while that's in the oven, we are going to make the sauce for it. And it is absolutely delicious. So, first thing we need is some bacon. Butter is always the best thing in the world. Unless there's bacon, then butter is second. Or maybe it's not second. I don't know. Maybe they are equal. Now, when you take out your strips of bacon, if you cut it, now, if you take it out of the fridge and do it immediately, it's a lot easier. And if you cut it like this, because basically we're making bacon bits. Now, you cook your bacon as firm or as not as you want, but for this, leave it a little bit softer because you're making a sauce with it, and you want it to continue to cook down in the sauce. Now, we are going to add to this pan, we're just going to turn this on about 5, and we're going to chop this bacon up. I should have had this done ahead of time, but I ran out of time this morning. So this, doing the prep for this takes a little bit of time, but if you have it done and ready, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to put it together. I mean, we've been hanging out here for a while and we're not done yet, but it is going to be well worth it. Okay, now we're just going to take this bacon and throw it in the pan. And when you make this for someone and they see how much love and effort you've put into it, they will enjoy it even more. There we go. Now this doesn't need to cook for a long time. We need to render a little bit of the fat out because that fat is going to be the oil for our salad dressing or our custard dressing. So we're just going to give this a stir. Now you could do it in a bigger pan for sure, but this is going to be good enough. Now while that is happening, we are also going to add a 1/4 cup or 45 grams-ish of onion. Now I know it seems like I'm using a lot of onion today, but really, because you're only having a little bit of this, it isn't going to be a lot. And we've got that beautiful cream and the cheese to give us fat. If you wanted to serve this with a few slices of avocado, that would be beautiful. Or if you want to set one of the custards on top of a salad, that would be lovely. Now, we're just going to let this get going. And while we're doing that, we're going to add about half a cup-ish. Let me get my half cup measure. There we go. A little more, a little less of vinegar. You want a nice vinegar, a flavored vinegar, but make sure that whatever kind of vinegar you're using doesn't have a whole bunch of carbs in it, and this does not. This is a Chardonnay wine vinegar, so if you have a red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, as long as it's a nice one, please don't buy your beautiful vinegars in the grocery store. But I'll tell you, if you have a Winners or a Marshall's in your neighborhood, go there and look for nice vinegar, because you'll be surprised what you can find in there. Now we're going to let this cook a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to turn this up a bit. So when you're cooking bacon, there's always a lot of moisture in it, which, if I put it in a bigger pan, would go away faster. So let's just turn this up, and that will boil it away faster. Okay, now I know this is not quite done yet, but we're going to pour our Chardonnay vinegar so it's ready to go. There we go. And then cork back in. And we're going to add a tablespoon, 15 milliliter measure of xylitol. Now you can use erythritol. If you're going to use erythritol, use powdered erythritol, but if you serve it cold, that's going to crystallize, which can make some really yummy crystals in your salad dressing, but we're going to be serving this hot. So now, remember I said you could make these ahead? I'm going to show you the ones that I made ahead. And if you want to reheat them, you can reheat them in the oven. Put them in the oven on 250 degrees. Look at that. It is just beautiful. You can see our veggies in there. So we're just going to pop that in the oven for a couple of minutes while we're cooking this down. Okay, now that it's getting sizzly, you know that we're starting to render some fat out. As long as there is moisture in your pan, you're not really rendering fat out, you're just boiling your bacon. So cook this down as much or as little as you want. And when you put it in the fridge, whatever's left over, if there is any left over, you put it in the fridge. And when you take it out, throw it back in the frying pan, heat it up a little bit again. Or in a pot, or I suppose you could throw it in the microwave. Okay, now, look at all of this that we've done. We've been together almost an hour-ish. Pardon me. Now, we're just going to let that sizzle for a minute. And as soon as this starts browning, once the onions start browning a little bit, now you can also add a little bit of garlic to this if you want, but you don't have to. And you want to make sure that we've got enough fat rendered out of this bacon that it is going to make a beautiful sauce. And again, with the salt and pepper, make sure that you're salting this well. Okay, and in with half a cup of vinegar. And we're just going to let this cook down a little bit. And again, a little bit of salt. Don't need lots. That vinegar has lots of nice tang. Oh, vinegar fumes right in the eye. Okay, now let's move this away so that we've got a nice spot to put our plate on, because we're going to get that out of the oven. Now, if you need to heat it up fast, you can throw it in the microwave and heat it up. Do not turn your oven when you're reheating things. Don't turn your oven higher than 250, and use a thermometer to check it. Now, these can be eaten cold or hot, either way. But use a thermometer to check it. Don't let it go past 145 or you're going to be recooking it. And that is the last thing that you want to do. Okay, now we need to do a taste test. Make sure that we don't need to adjust anything here. Now the bacon is going to be delicious regardless. That is lovely. You can make it sweeter or less sweet, whatever works for you. So start with a tablespoon of xylitol or erythritol and just kind of go from there. And again, you can cook this down as much as you want. Now remember, when you're boiling the vinegar away, you're going to be making it a little bit more sour. So that is going to be good enough. Now you can put this on a bed of lettuce, you can put it on a bed of coleslaw, you can put it on a bed of spinach, you can do whatever you like, or you can eat it just the way it is. Take it for your lunch. And there you have it. So, takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of prep, but is it worth it? Look at that. Is that worth it? Absolutely it is. It is creamy and eggy and cheesy all at the same time, and hot saucy. Is that a word? It is now. And this is low carb, high fat, bacony, buttery, cheesy. It is all the most miraculous things that we have in our fridge or our pantry, all rolled into one. So, if you are trying to figure out what to do for game day, what to do for Valentine's Day, you can have this done ahead of time, throw it in the oven and heat it up, or throw it in the microwave and heat it up. The oven is definitely a better choice. 250 to warm it up. Now mine are not going to be out of the oven for a while, so this is from yesterday, just to show you how easy it is to heat this up, to have it ready for whoever you want it ready for. So happy Valentine's Day, happy Super Bowl Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Please do something wonderful for yourself. Call someone or go and see someone that you haven't seen for a while. It will make their day more special, and it will make your day more special too. So do your very best to be the best version of you that you can be today. And I will see you next Sunday at 10 a.m. Mountain. Not going to be hanging out with you for as long. We'll keep it to half an hour next week. And we are going to make Yorkshire puddings. Yes, I said Yorkshire puddings. So